rally yesterday to get past A&M in Game 2. One last game, the 73rd of the season for Tennessee. 73 baseball games in a college baseball season is insanity. I think it's like Texas A&M's 67, 68, something like that. So we will see what happens tonight in Omaha. It will be, it is going to be 100 degrees today in Omaha, Nebraska. It is going to be a grueling one, and you can hear Vol Network coverage right here on 104.5 The Zone starting at 5:45 p.m. today, right after 3HL. Their final segment is when the Vol Network coverage will take over. First pitch tonight at 6. How are we feeling?
I don't know. This is excruciating.
Are they still BVS proof? Because the three of us and Bert and a couple of your buddies were together yesterday.
Yes.
And I saw the BVS on your face. And you tried to tell me that this baseball team couldn't give it to you. And I saw it. I saw it for a good, 6 innings?
After the second inning of leaving bases loaded and leaving all three stranded, the BVS started to creep in. I'm not going to lie to you. But Dylan Dreiling's homer was like a pressure release valve for the BVS to flow away and to believe in this offense again.
I saw it.
Which just had to chip away yesterday and finally broke through. And then Cal Stark's 2-run homer, very, very timely. Dylan Dreiling, by the way, talk about clutch moments in his Tennessee career. You think back to the walk-off single against Vanderbilt last year in the middle of the regular season that turned Tennessee's season around to get to Omaha. And just the moments that he has come up so big, obviously has the walk-off against Florida State in the first game of the College World Series, and then he gets Tennessee's offense going, gives them the lead yesterday. So Dylan Dreiling coming up big once again for this offense.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to react to the first two games of the final series in Tennessee's effort to win their first College World Series in program history. Tony Vitello, the skipper of the Vols, speaking after Game 2 yesterday in reaction.
Yeah, it was an SEC war or just a postseason war. And, in that situation, if you had your druthers, you'd like to have the last at-bat because, the ninth inning is going to be full of drama. But I think our kids kept their composure in that ninth inning, including Ariel in a real tough play. You don't want to see anyone get hurt there, but that was kind of a do-or-die deal where you couldn't shy away or you had to make a decision with what you were going to do. So that, to me, was kind of the theme of the day. I know it was an exciting win, maybe not the sexiest or whatever you want to call it, but there was a lot of teammates taking care of teammates, a lot of coaches picking up players picking up coaches with decisions and things like that. And obviously it's easy because the score is what it is, but I just felt like we were more true to who we were today in pregame and the dugout during the game. And again, it's easy to say that because we end up doing okay on the scoreboard, but I'd rather go into battle with that group the way they showed up today and hope they do the same tomorrow.
And so that's the hopes of an entire fan base across the country for Tennessee, is that they can just do it one more time tonight. F&M Bank Chat is also where you can interact with the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Got a lot of Go Damn Vols in the comments on YouTube this morning, understandably so. Got some Vandy fans out here trying to kneecap you, saying that Texas just let go of their head coach, and so you better watch out because even if you win the College World Series, you won't have Tony Vitello for long, Vols fans. Somebody just constantly preying on your downfall at this point.
Feels like we've been trying to play this game with Tony for a while now. It came up when the LSU job came open, so we'll see. A lot of reports about an extension potentially coming up for Tony Vitello, but I think Danny White's going to make sure Tony sticks around.
Give him the bag. Do not let him leave. That is the best thing that you have going in the athletic department right now.
Yeah.
Correct? I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick Barnes and the basketball program have been closest.
In terms of a national title contender, year in and year out, like in the context of its own sport, right? Not about what draws more. The answer to that's always going to be football. But
because, I mean, you could have made the argument that Heupel, and before the Hendon Hooker season went, just sideways in 6 different ways, they were pretty damn close.
No program in the context of its own league and its own sport has more juice on the hill right now than Tennessee baseball. Yeah, I agree with that.
Are there watch parties around the city today? I assume that Tennessee fans are going to do something at some point. I had a couple tweet me about some watch parties maybe in East Nashville. So if you guys are having like watch parties for Vols fans today, should be a perfect night to watch some baseball. Looking forward to that a little later on. We also have Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. That will be very, very interesting to see how that goes. We'll dive into that a little bit later as well. And don't worry, just because there's a national championship on the line doesn't mean those of you who are just screaming at us in the comments to talk about Titans offseason stuff. We'll get there. It's okay. Take a breather. There's a natty on the line tonight, though, and that has all of our utmost attention. So we'll check in on things from Omaha, Nebraska. Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel has been covering it expertly, and he wrote about this postseason war that Tennessee and Texas A&M are currently in the middle of. That's coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Monday, summertime, Hattie B's, they all go together. You can also get any of their great beer on tap at Hattie B's, the closest location near you. You download the app, you can get it mobile delivered for lunch or dinner today. 615-737-1045 is the number. Tennessee, one game away from a national championship, the first for the university since 2008, and Mike Wilson is there telling the story from Omaha, Nebraska for the Knoxville News-Sentinel. Michael joins us for the 500th time in the last, it feels like, week. Hello, Mike. How are you? Are you well?
Yeah, sorry, I lost you there for a second, Buck. I was quickly trying to mobile order you to Omaha, much like you're able to mobile order Hattie B's.
I'm a little more expensive than the chicken.
And you don't get a free dessert with Buck like you do with the Hattie B's.
For Mike, I may bring a dessert. Maybe I'll stop at a Dairy Queen.
We can work a deal out.
The weekend negotiations are ongoing. So, excellent. That screeching halt. I always love Mike Wilson and his dry sense of humor to just toss a dead fish in my lap that way. Excellent work by you, Mike.
Tossed the dead fish.
I don't think that was my fault. I don't know whose fault that was, but that wasn't mine. Either way, Mike, baseball, talk about it.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild run, obviously, through Omaha. I think I live here, first off, now. Now a resident of Omaha.
Rights.
Yeah, which means my house is gone in Knoxville, but that's fine. It's been an incredible run for Tennessee, and obviously they were the number one seed coming in, but they were the first number one seed to reach the final since I think it was 2009, and now they could become the first to win it since 1999. So a lot at stake here, but for the program, I think is what you have to talk about and what it would mean 7 years after Tony Vitello was hired to fix a deceased program to some extent and inject a level of life into it that puts you on this platform this fast. It's been pretty dang remarkable.
So how did what most changed from game one to game two and really into game two, where the hitting for Tennessee was not viable? They kept stranding runners on base throughout the course of that game, and then all of a sudden Dylan Dreiling is just the cure?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was Tennessee didn't beat itself early. The pitching was absolutely incredible in game two. Drew Beam was awesome, made one mistake on that solo homer early, and Aaron Combs was just as good out of the bullpen. So that's where you've got to start. I thought what Tennessee lacked in game one, they made too many mistakes in the field, but two, the pitchers didn't put hitters away. The homer in the first inning in game one was an 0-2 pitch. A.J. Causey gave up multiple 0-2 hits in the third, the 5-run third. Tennessee just wasn't finishing off hitters. Drew Beam struck out 7 in 4 innings yesterday. The way that Tennessee went about its pitching changed so much. And then obviously they needed a hit at some point, and that's what flipped it. But I think to me it all started with Tennessee getting out effectively, both on the mound and in the field.
For today, Christian Moore had just a small situation, it looked like, with the training staff. He stayed in the game. He didn't seem interested in coming out. We were listening to it on the radio broadcast, so you'll have to articulate it more for the audience than we're able to do. But it sounds like just leg cramp situation?
Yeah, so he tagged up from first to second to seventh. Looked fine, and then kind of came up, holding the back of his right leg. He said cramps afterward. I think Tony Vitello said just some leg soreness. I mean, he had a kind of issue there in the Evansville series. I don't know that it's the same one. Vitello thought maybe it could be. But no matter what it is, Christian Moore is pretty clear on one thing. He's 100% playing on Monday in Omaha.
Cal Stark going 0 for 16 with 9 strikeouts prior to the 2-run homer in the 8th that would give Tennessee that 4-1 margin of victory. What was the conversations like with the players afterwards and with Tony about just kind of waiting for their moment to break through?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but up till that point, Cal Stark's most important at bat in Omaha was popping out against Florida State and turning the lineup over in that 9th inning comeback. He hadn't had any offensive production, but when you talk about it after the game with people, as I did with hitting coach and catching coach Josh Elander, it doesn't matter. They're so in love with what Stark gives them from a presence standpoint a defensive standpoint that Elander just said anything you get offensively is a bonus. I mean, you know what you're going to get behind the plate for him. Tony Vitello got choked up during the Super Regionals saying, that's my guy, talking about Cal. I mean, these coaches love him to death. And you can look at yesterday, the back pick in the 5th, I think it was, after Combs came in, got 2 strikeouts with 2 on, Cal Stark ends the inning with a back pick. I mean, he steals outs, he makes plays. So when Tennessee gets offensive production from him, they're stoked. But, man, they love what they get consistently otherwise from him.
@by Mike Wilson is where you follow him. He is in Omaha, Nebraska, covering the final game of the College World Series between Texas A&M and Tennessee tonight.
So Christian Moore, 1 for 8 so far in this series. Been a quiet couple of days for Kavares Tears as well. Billy Amick, been kind of a quiet College World Series. Is there a Tennessee bat in particular that you really have your eye on tonight that just has to come through for this team?
I mean, from a writing standpoint, I think I picked Billy Amick because there's some fun narratives there of the fact that, he hasn't had a good College World Series. And then suddenly busting out in the final would be a fun one to write about. Those 3 have slumped in this series, and obviously for Christian Moore, that's a 2-game stretch after a really good first 3 games. Kavares Tears has 2 really, really important homers and a really important triple against Florida State. But otherwise, it's been a pretty quiet College World Series overall for him, outside of course, 2 incredible defensive plays. Those 3 guys haven't been as consistent as you'd like, but that's kind of the beauty of what Tennessee has in this lineup, is that even when some guys aren't their best, others are. I think Dylan Dryling's been the best player in the entire College World Series for any team. Hunter Ensley's been outstanding, especially in this final series. And Blake Burke's been terrific throughout the whole thing. So Tennessee's still getting superstar production from some really good players.
Yeah, I saw you wrote about Dylan Dreiling on Knox News, and you're up there with Gentry Estes as well, who's writing for the Tennessee, and he had a good piece about Xander Sechrist. So, I mean, just the clutch factor from both of those guys, right, all season, whether it's Dreiling or Sechrist. But sticking with Xander, just his journey from midweek pitcher to day 3 starter, what do they need to see from him to keep Tennessee in this game tonight? Basically a continuation of what he's been doing in the postseason?
Yeah, it's such a simple answer, but he just needs Xander to keep being himself. For whatever reason, he just has that innate ability to not take it too seriously. And that's why you've kind of seen his last 5 starts be what they are, where he, clinches an SEC regular season title, gets Tennessee to the SEC tournament final, wins the regional, wins the super regional, clinches the spot in the College World Series final. I mean, he's been the guy on the mound in pivotal moments for the past month. But he kind of got experience with that throughout the season as well, because Tennessee played a lot of 1-1 series into the rubber match. And for whatever reason, Xander just excels. I think it's because he's got a slow heart rate. He doesn't take life too seriously, and it seems to parlay into pitching where he can make every pitch seriously because nothing else is too serious.
We're going to have this conversation later amongst ourselves, Mike. Mike Wilson, Knoxville News Sentinel, here with us on 104.5 The Zone, about if they're able to do it tonight, and that's a big if because Texas A&M is a very good baseball team, but if they're able to pull it off and win a national title and do so for the university for the first time since 2008, how much further below the Tennessee win over Alabama at Neyland would you rank a Vols, seriously, a Vols national championship? Because I had to fight Lucas and Jackson off this morning about the import of a national championship, and they both dismissed me immediately and said, no. The Alabama win is going to be, leaps and bounds over a national championship.
I don't know that it's leaps and bounds. I think that would be pretty close because the thing you've got to keep in mind is there's a love affair between Tony Vitello, this Vols program, and the fan base. And yes, the baseball fan base is a smaller portion of a fan base because it is a football fan base like most SEC schools are, except for South Carolina. So most SEC schools are that. But winning a national championship, Tennessee hasn't had that in such a long time. It hasn't had it in a men's team sport since '98, right? Winning a national title and ending that stretch is a significant deal for a program. And there's so much passion and pleasure with Tennessee baseball. I think it's going to be right there with it. Obviously, one of the big determining factors there and how it's immediately perceived is there's not a field storm because it's not in Knoxville and not at Neyland Stadium. But, those are both moments that people are going to talk about for a really long time of where were you when.
So how much of A&M's best arms have already gone? And when you look at the pitching edge for tonight, who does it go to?
Yeah, A&M will probably start Justin Lampkin, who's thrown 8 scoreless in Omaha. I think 15 strikeouts in those 8. They'll have Stewart back, Evan Stewart out of the bullpen. I think it's Evan Stewart.
Evan Aschenbeck?
Evan Aschenbeck, but they'll also have Stewart, whose first name escapes me right now. Those are the 3 names that Jim Schlossnagle referenced last night. Those will be the 3 you expect to see. And Aschenbeck is obviously absolutely incredible. Struck out 7 in 2 2/3 the other day against Tennessee. So that's what Texas A&M is probably going to throw, and I would assume in that order. Lampkin to Stewart to Aschenbeck. In Tennessee, you like what you get from Xander. Snead's available. Kirby's available. I think the only 2 that probably aren't are Beams and Combs. So you've got Causey on the table if you need him. Stamos is a reliever option if you need him. So from a depth perspective, I think you take Tennessee, but I think A&M would say they like the way theirs lines up even more, just in terms of those are probably the 3 they're going to go to, and in the normal roles, whereas, Causey and Stamos haven't really been used in the roles they might get used in today.
When does Lampkin's day need to be over for Tennessee fans to feel good about the rest of this game, right? And Evan Aschenbeck doesn't have to come in for 2 to 3 innings and clean up.
I mean, you want to chase him as early as possible. Put the stress on the bullpen, and that's very much what Tennessee was trying to do yesterday with Cortez, who was so good for, I think, 100 or 99 pitches right around there. Tennessee's whole goal was get him out, get deeper into the bullpen, because his stuff is absolutely ridiculous. And obviously that's why you saw it play the way it did. So the same goal. Your goal is to get pitchers off the mound. So if you can chase that guy in the second or the third, you're getting A&M ahead of schedule with their bullpen, and that's exactly the outcome you want.
Mike, with Texas, not Texas A&M, but Texas moving on from their baseball coach, is there any sense that there is an extension on the horizon for Tony Vitello to make sure that he stays with the University of Tennessee, regardless of the outcome tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's already very much in discussion or on the table at this point, regardless of anything to do with Texas, which I don't think is going to be a problem. I think that's probably been in the works. His last extension and raise was, I believe, 21. And that made him about 1.5 a year for that contract. So I would expect a significant raise, another extension, and certainly if you win a national title, that's going to change some terms in that contract somewhere, I would imagine. But yeah, I've got no doubt that those conversations have been going on for a while between Tennessee and Tony Vitello and his people.
College World Series is such a unique sports setting because you get 8 fan bases in one place in the middle of Nebraska for 2 weeks if they stick around. But at this point, what is sort of the percentage between Tennessee and Texas A&M fan as far as the environment around this national championship series? Do you still see, fans of other programs like Florida, Kentucky fans hanging around to maybe root against the team that they hate? Like, what's the vibe in Omaha now when it comes down to 2 SEC teams for the finals?
Well, the vibe on your geography knowledge isn't great because Omaha's on the Iowa border, not in the middle of Nebraska, but we'll come back to that later.
What are you going to do?
Well, make fun of you is what I'm going to do.
I can tell you the capital of Nebraska if that helps.
Whatever. The cool thing about Omaha throughout the whole series is there's fans of so many places, teams, and programs. The final obviously is whittled down now, but there's still just general baseball fans around. And that's the thing that I think I've always appreciated about being in Omaha, 3 of the last 4 years, is you just see people who love baseball. It's just a lot of baseball people and baseball fans. And there's enough of that beyond the fans of teams that it's just a really unique environment of people who come to this every year or live in Omaha and come to it and just want to see good baseball. And obviously in the final, you've seen a pretty dang good split between Tennessee and Texas A&M fans because each have had some really good moments to cheer about, and they've made those cheers count. So it's been a pretty sweet environment so far this weekend, and I imagine in this 100-degree weather today in Iowa, basically, we are going to see some good crowds again.
I'm an idiot, and I was wrong.
Yes, Lucas, I agree. You are an idiot, Iowa. And you were wrong. Mike, level of BVS, are you familiar with the syndrome that is battered Vol syndrome?
I am, because I have the internet.
So, what is the level of BVS heading into a decisive Game 3 in the College World Series tonight?
I imagine probably at the end of the 4th inning yesterday, after Blake Burke grounded out with the bases loaded and Tennessee left them loaded twice in 4 innings and they're down 1-0, I imagine the BVS was absolutely off the charts.
I could feel it.
Yeah, palpable, if you will. Man, the only sports team I'm really a fan of at this point in my life is the Atlanta Braves. So I've gone through some suffering at points as well. A lot of good points, but some of the postseason foibles have been depressing as well. It's really hard to convince yourself that things are going to go your way, right? Like that's the sports fan syndrome where you've seen enough postseason losses on the big stage at the right moment. Like you get to that place. I get the mentality, but there is something innate about this Tennessee team. They seem to find a way. Yesterday you get that swing from Dylan Dreiling. Cal Stark doesn't have a hit. He hits that homer. The wind happens to have started blowing in the 9th inning or right before it and keeps that fly ball in the 9th. But there's something around this team. There's something around the attitude of this team that's so different. It's hard to quantify and what the value is, but you just see it show up. So I think Tennessee fans, as best as they can, need to shove that aside and probably just enjoy where this is at, because this has been a pretty special team to watch, be around, to write about, and all of those things.
Lucas keeps lying to himself and trying. He's trying to enjoy it and acting like this team is BVS proof. And then I see it on his face, Mike. I can see it wash across him. Hell, it's in the YouTube comments, Lucas. Look at it. It says battered Vol syndrome as a commenter's name, and it says here and accounted for. It's everywhere. It's closing in on you.
Well, Lucas has the Italian in him like Tony Vitello, so he's not good at hiding those emotions.
It's true. The things we tell ourselves to get through sporting events for our favorite teams.
I do think this team exudes confidence, and it permeates throughout the fan base more than any Tennessee team that I can remember, I don't know, in the last decade or so, Mike.
I mean, you probably got it from the 2022 Vols to an extent too, but I don't know if they exuded confidence as much as they shoved it down your head. So different air, but I think you got the same vibe from them of maybe inevitability in terms of, like yesterday, they're down 1-0 throughout that whole game, but you're still like, they're going to win. Like at some point they're going to win. The Florida State game, the first one they came back and won, didn't feel that way until the 8th, maybe, when they started stringing some hits together. But even the game 1 of this final, they were getting clubbed. Then they hit back-to-back homers in the 7th, and you're like, oh, here they go again. Like it just never feels like they're out of a game because they've got so many weapons at so many positions. And that gives confidence. So does the fact that there is just an air of confidence. I mean, it's so funny that you can look at Xander Sechrist now. Again, you talk about the midweekness of his career, and you're just like, you're really confident in that guy. Like he just keeps delivering. And there's just a cool confidence around this Tennessee team.
Well, there is a cool confidence around Mike Wilson anytime he joins the show. You can read his beautiful words at knoxnews.com. You can follow him at @ByMikeWilson. He cannot mail order me to Omaha, but he can potentially deliver to you words about a Vols national title if they're able to pull it off tonight. Buddy, thank you for taking the time. I assume we're going to call you at some point, win, lose, or draw. Well, I guess there's no draw in this situation, but we'll probably call you at some point to bother you after this whole thing's done.
It sounds great, and I'm going to do some quick research on this mail-order Buck situation.
It's very, very expensive. But again, I am for sale. Mike Wilson there with us on 104.5 The Zone. The best. Always fun to have Mike on. Like baseball season, because Mike is so damn good at the chronicling of not just the moment, but the people and all the ancillary factors that create these characters along the ride that is a College World Series trip or title run or whatever the case may be. Mike does a really, really good job.
And he's obsessed with baseball.
Yes.
It's the sport he's most passionate about. It's the sport he enjoys covering the most. I feel like there's a lot of those guys on this Tennessee beat, whether it's Mike or Ben McKee or Eric Kane or Ryan Shumpert. All those guys do a great job, but all baseball obsessed. So cool for them to take up residency, essentially, in Omaha for 2 weeks. I mean, it's a while. You're out there for a good bit. Like, this is not a weekend trip for a football game. 2 weeks is a pretty solid amount of time to be on a work assignment in, I guess, Idaho. Did he say Idaho or did he say Iowa?
Iowa. If you sent me for 2 weeks to Jacksonville, that would probably be the end.
You imagine?
I cannot. I truly cannot. But What I also could not imagine is Tony Vitello being anywhere but the University of Tennessee. There is an opening at a high-level college baseball program, so we'll talk about the viability of keeping Vitello coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. The Vols have a national championship on the line tonight. Mike Wilson was just here with us recapping the events from Omaha. So he feels, well, he said that he's not reporting anything specifically, it sounds like, but that his instinct tells him that an extension for baseball coach Tony Vitello is already in the works, given the success that his program continues to have and them being on the precipice of winning a national title. So win or lose, Tony V should get the bag. We're in agreement, right? Like, they should pay him. I mean, what's the highest paid college baseball coach right now?
Somewhere around $3 million.
Is Tony Vitello worth $3 million to the University of Tennessee?
Oh, my God, yeah.
I would argue that in spades. So there should be no hesitancy. Mike doesn't make it sound like they aren't actively working towards that. But the thing that throws a small wrinkle into the idea of just keeping Tony V around, whatever happens with the Vols tonight, is the Texas baseball job. Because they move on from their head coach. Earlier today, David Pierce, after 8 seasons, earlier today, after 8 seasons as their head coach in Austin, and it's a good job. Texas baseball, big deal. Their season, they aspire to more, it feels like, at Texas on a regular basis, and having A&M in the final, I'm sure, doesn't hurt instigating things when you're trying to make money moves. And if you're looking at the guy who's going directly up against Texas A&M, you might say, okay, maybe that Tony V guy, he might have something to him. But it sounds like, Lucas, the reporting around it is that they're going to hire the guy on the opposite bench.
I wouldn't go that far. That's kind of the buzz right now. Chase Parham, who covers Ole Miss baseball for Rivals, he has a podcast, largely covers the Rebels, but he tweeted about an hour ago, internet land and message boards might be really fun now that David Pierce is out at Texas and Texas A&M's Jim Schlossnagle is the top candidate. Some think it might already be done. He says that is the only thing even close to a report that Schloss could be in consideration for the Texas job. But if it's something hanging over Game 3 of the National Championship Series, then it's something to talk about for sure. And Tony, at the moment, by the way, has a salary of $1.5 million per year.
Double it.
Aria Gerson of the Tennessean broke down the highest paid coaches in college baseball, specifically in the SEC. Tim Corbin's number 1 at over $1.9 million per year.
Should be.
Florida's Kevin O'Sullivan is number 2 at 1.77. LSU's Jay Johnson is 3 at 1.65. Ole Miss's Mike Bianco, 1.625. Tony Vitello, $1.5 million. It's just a touch over A&M's Jim Schlossnagle. So, yes, I agree with you, especially if Tennessee wins today, or regardless, make Tony Vitello the highest paid coach in the Southeastern Conference. You already have the renovation to Lindsey Nelson Stadium on the way, and Danny White has never shown a hesitancy to make a commitment to a major sport that gives him a reason to make a commitment.
For what it's worth, David Pierce, the fired Texas coach, was making $1.2 million a year at the University of Texas. So it doesn't sound like there's any huge reason for alarm there. Now, Brent Hubbs was on with the morning show, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, talking about this. Brent Hubbs, of course, of VolQuest, talking about the idea of a Tony Vitello extension. This was Brent Hubbs' appearance with RKW.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty close. I do. I think that, I don't know, the ink's not dried, and obviously if Tony Vitello goes and wins the national championship, then if I'm Tony Vitello's agent, I'm probably picking up the phone going, hey, you know that deal you got? We need to add a 0 or 2, or we need to change a number or 2 in that deal. But I do think they're close. I think Tony Vitello wants to be here. I think Tennessee's commitment to baseball is good, obviously, with all the stadium stuff they're doing. But I think in this contract, your commitment to baseball is going to show up even more. I know Tony Vitello is not about the money for himself. Obviously, he's going to get paid, and he should get paid. But one of the things that Tony Vitello has been about since he's been here in any contract extension is making sure his assistants and his support staff are properly paid. And I think Tennessee's commitment to that's pretty good. So the hope that Tennessee has is that the ink can get dry on that thing whenever, pretty quickly after Tennessee's last play in the College World Series, and you certainly hope that's the last weekend in the championship series. And I do think they feel good about where they are right now.
So that doesn't sound like there's any drama at all. So probably not worth thinking too much about the idea of somebody sniffing around Tony Vitello. Greg Burton on Facebook Live, where you can live stream the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can also give us a call at your convenience. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in on the conversation here. Greg Burton says that Vitello not going anywhere. LOL, rumor started by a Vanderbilt fan. Ha 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 ha. So, Vandy fans preying on Tennessee fans' downfall tonight. Yes, of course.
Oh, certainly. As it should be.
Yes.
That's how this works.
Okay.
There is some big recruiting news on the football side. Tennessee's picked up a goal.
Breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
Scared me.
It's not a pleasant experience, is it?
I don't mind.
Okay.
Tennessee picks up a commitment from 4-star offensive lineman Douglas Utu, the offensive tackle out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. He is the number 4 offensive tackle in the class of 2025, and he is already the second highest ranked player in Tennessee's 2025 recruiting class, headlined, of course, by George McIntyre of Brentwood Academy. It is a heavily local class so far, especially at the top, as Ethan Utley, the 4-star defensive lineman out of Ensworth, also is a Tennessee commit.
Okay. Well, that's great. 615-737-1045. Second hour coming up next. We got a lot of ground to cover over the course of today's show, and we'll continue to discuss what a national championship would mean for the University of Tennessee. But to pivot into a little bit of NFL while we have some downtime, we've been doing team series previews, and there is one team that I am fascinated by, a complete and total science experiment in the year 2024 that we're going to dig into. The Giants are not on the Titans' schedule, but I'm going to tell you why you should care about them coming up next.
It is 10:58. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The College World Series Finals comes down to tonight. It is Game 3 between Tennessee and Texas A&M for a national championship. It'll be the first for whichever program wins tonight in Omaha. Vols fell in Game 1 9-5 on Saturday, but came back with a 4-1 win Sunday afternoon. Drew Beam got the start, struck out 7, allowed just 1 run and 3 hits over 4 innings. Aaron Combs got the win in relief as the Vols stayed alive.
Fastball hit in the air towards right. Going back is Tears. On the track, comes back, a step in towards the infield, makes the catch, and that is the ball game. In the bottom of the 9th, no runs, 2 hits, 2 men left. Tennessee says hello win column for the 59th time.
Xander Sechrist expected to get the start tonight for Tennessee, with lefty Justin Lampkin likely starting for A&M. That was John Wilkerson of Vol Network on the call. You can hear him again tonight right here on The Zone. Coverage starts at 5:45 before first pitch at 6 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome in on this Monday. We're happy to have you. Lucas, Jackson, and me until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is the number. You can join the discussion at any point. We would be happy to have you there. We would also enjoy your comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you're so inclined, you can live stream us on those streaming platforms. We've got lots more Vols baseball coverage later this afternoon. 5:45 is when the Vol Network will take over right here on The Zone. So 3HL will be preempted just slightly. And first pitch at 6 p.m. between Texas A&M and Tennessee for the College World Series. Very exciting. Not going to do a ton of NFL. Obviously, there's not a ton of NFL going on right now. There's precious little news other than did you see the Chiefs released Isaiah Buggs today?
Yes, the defensive lineman that has run into multiple legal issues over the course of the last month.
Yeah, so not worth the headache. But beyond that and, the various arrests or incidents that you'll see at this time of year, because it's summer vacation for the NFL, there's not a lot to talk about. So what are we doing in the absence of that? We're taking a look at each team and dissecting why it is, what relevance they have to the Titans if they are on the Titans schedule, if they're not on the Titans schedule, and the viability of teams buying or selling their offseason and whether we buy them as contenders or pretenders or not. Because the end goal of this exercise is to look at teams that made the playoffs last year and decide who we think is most likely to take a step back. Because, going from worst to first, not unthinkable. Texans did it last year, as we've talked about before. Titans look like a thoroughly capable roster of making the playoffs this coming season. The place that we're going to start, though, is a team that I don't think any of us are talking about as viable to make the postseason, and that is the New York Giants. They have had one of the more uninspiring off seasons because you have Daniel Jones basically getting dragged publicly, but from unnamed sources within the Giants organization who are talking about the quarterback as not being viable beyond the 6 games on a new contract that they gave him, $40 million a year. Buyer's remorse is something that was used around Daniel Jones multiple times, or at least was told to Rich Eisen at the Combine, where, of course, the rumor mill starts, and it's easy to drag somebody or take needless shots, anonymous shots. Either way, Daniel Jones, still the quarterback for the New York Giants. They pick one spot ahead of the Tennessee Titans. Is there a player that Titans fans are going to be most, or a rookie, the Titans fans are going to be most watching from afar to see how much better or worse that player does than J.C. Latham, than Malik Neighbors, who went one spot ahead of them? Because there were a lot of Titans fans, including myself, that would have had a level of interest in Malik Neighbors being a part of this offense in 2024?
I think most people wanted the left tackle to be addressed in the top 10. And that doesn't mean they wouldn't have gotten excited. There's no position easier to get excited about other than drafting your number one overall quarterback or whatever than wide receiver, right? You can have a massive position of need with the 7th pick and everybody say, God, we need a left tackle. Please go get us a left tackle. But if they drafted someone like Malik Neighbors, it's just so easy to get up for that. So I think most Titans fans wanted left tackle to be the pick at 7. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be watching Malik Neighbors with a keen eye this season saying, oh, if he's good, I'm going to think we should have taken him, especially if J.C. Latham is able to handle himself as a rookie.
Their offseason, I mean, you really wouldn't recognize a lot of the players that they signed or re-signed to contracts because they haven't really mattered beyond like Jordan Phillips, who's had a good career for like Miami and Buffalo, a defensive tackle. Isaiah Simmons did get an extension there. He's like a safety linebacker hybrid type of player. Their wide receiver room continues to confuse me with players like Miles Boykin alongside Jalen Hyatt, now Malik Neighbors. Do you still have Darius Slayton running around out there for the New York Giants?
Yep. Did you mention Wan'Dale Robinson?
I did not mention Wan'Dale Robinson. So that is what their offseason transactions have looked like. And the draft, beyond Malik Neighbors, they do draft a tight end, Theo Johnson, in the 4th round. They add a running back, Tyrone Tracy, which I believe, is that the Purdue running back? I'm pretty sure that's a Purdue running back. Either way, he's a pretty nice player if that's who I'm thinking of. 5th round pick in the 24 draft.
Yeah, transferred from Iowa.
Tyler Nubin, the strong safety, was their 2nd round pick, and Drew Phillips, a nickel corner, their 3rd round pick. So one of the more uninspiring off seasons, I think, anywhere in the NFL. None of us are going to buy it. None of us are going to buy them as contenders. So I don't know what the most interesting thing about the Giants this year is, other than they're one of these teams that are playing for a top draft pick in 2025.
I mean, what are the headlines of the Giants offseason?
Buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. Saquon Barkley, gone.
To Philadelphia.
So stays in the division. And Darren Waller retires.
And puts out a terrible, terrible rap music video.
Yes.
Respectfully.
That is the Giants offseason. And Malik Neighbors is a very, very fun and exciting and probably good pick at 6 overall. But it is hard to really get up for this team. I mean, how much better is the Giants offensive line going to be this year if they can remain totally healthy? Because injuries were a massive factor. They led the league in sacks last season. They were decimated across the board with offensive line injuries. Evan Neal back as the right tackle. Andrew Thomas back as the left tackle. But how much better does this O-line stand to be? Because that's why they couldn't get anything out of the gates last season.
Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So with New York, I think it's funny. Kyle from Springfield on YouTube says, what gives worse buyer's remorse, Daniel Jones or a Four Loko? Now, I was pro Four Loko in my life before they made them, medically safer. Because I remember, I actually knew this is not something worth laughing about, but I knew a guy that had a heart attack because he drank four Locos. He's like 25 years old. Oh my! Swear to God, before they made them like legally safer, because Four Loko were like legitimately dangerous if you drank too many of them.
Man, if you're drinking four Locos in one sitting, like
that college kid on spring break,
something's gonna happen.
No, I agree.
You're not gonna.
Yeah, but the percentage chance of what's more likely to happen, that a college kid on spring break practices moderation, or that a college kid on spring break drinks four Locos, goes crazy, has a heart attack?
So is that what Daniel Jones is right now? Is
a heart attack?
What is this?
This is Darren Waller.
Oh, it's Darren.
It's hard to be free.
It's hard to be free.
It is hard to be free. You better phase this down. I know he cusses.
Yeah, you're walking. Be careful.
Don't worry.
Okay. So is Daniel Jones the Four Loko of the NFL at quarterback, where you had the fun, quick ride running for 700 yards and the Danny Dimes season where he gets him to the playoffs? It's the 5 moments of fun you have on a Four Loko, and then the dreadful hangover that follows, which has been everything about the Daniel Jones experience since the 2022 season where he flashed and ended up getting that contract as a result.
No. See, I think of the consequences of that one Daniel Jones season as much more severe than just a hangover. Like you're talking about, you got too messed up. There's maybe a teenage pregnancy situation that you're working through at this point because you've got multiple years of lasting implications.
You don't want me, man.
That's what I'm saying. You're giving Daniel Jones a lot. There's a lot of ripple effects of giving Daniel Jones that contract, which 6 games in they decided, no, I'm out of here. Not worth the drug sex. Out of here.
No unit improved more than their pass rush with the acquisition of Brian Burns.
Right. Well, what they gave up for Brian Burns is something that I think is a sticking point for at least a contingent of the Giants fan base. Because did we talk at all about the Titans looking around, sniffing around edge rush help and Brian Burns being a viable asset? I don't. They weren't ever really exploring it other than to do due diligence. So I don't want to get into that. But we talk about edge rush help. Brian Burns, the price tag for that was not bad.
5 years, $141 million with $87.5 in guaranteed money.
But is it enough to make it? Like, are they going to play that good of defense to make Daniel Jones viable again? And it's not just that. Are they going to protect him to make him viable enough again? Because the thing about quarterbacks that pops into my head when I think of Daniel Jones, and we'll bring it back to the Titans on this before we get back into college baseball stuff. Do you ever look at a quarterback? So if I bring to you the example of a quarterback that you look at and you watch him and you say, well, he's not going to improve anymore. That's it. There's no ascension there, even though he may not be, an older player or a washed player who's had a great career. Like you look at a quarterback at a certain point in time, whether it's college or pro, and say, no, that guy, the things that plague him are no longer fixable. The biggest example of that to me that sticks out in my head is Blaine Gabbert. Like Blaine Gabbert, first round pick, continues to have a solid career. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Bucs and the Chiefs now. I think he just got his ring at their ring presentation for last year's Super Bowl championship. But Blaine Gabbert, when we talked about like Blaine Gabbert having to play for Marcus Mariota and having a pedigree of a player that should be better than Blaine Gabbert, and Blaine Gabbert still continuing to be bogged down by gets sped up in the pocket, gets super happy feet. No matter how much football he plays, no matter how many more reps he gets, he's still going to have these issues that are kind of embedded in him because of whatever happened to him in his football career. Daniel Jones is another example of that, where I look at him and I think, oh, no, this is not... I don't think, like, none of us think that Daniel Jones is going to be appreciably better than he was in that one successful season, that one truly successful season that they had.
For me, at the college level, that was Joe Milton last season. I don't know when that meant for a lot of people. They had that thought about Joe Milton going into the season, but a lot of folks took the Orange Bowl performance and thought that it could transition into another double-digit win type of campaign. But we knew pretty early on last season that Joe Milton just kind of was who he was at the college level. It's not to say he can't improve. He's playing for the New England Patriots. He's on an NFL roster. He's got all the tools, all of that stuff. But in terms of the sample size that we saw from Joe, week 2 or 3 last season, the Florida game, we're saying, okay, the ceiling here is 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying on that. I guess what I should have contextualized the conversation with is I think that the Giants legitimately inhibited what Daniel Jones could have been as an NFL player, just as I feel because of the way that, and by the way, I feel this way about most top draft choice quarterbacks. Far more of them miss than make it. But like, was Marcus Mariota derailed by what happened to him as a NFL player during his career with the Titans, where the offensive line protection was so poor that it got Wisenhunt fired, and then he snaps his leg and he's never the same player in the protection. I mean, he has some responsibility, of course, in why he didn't work here. But I think there's plenty of people who would look at Titans as an organization talking about quarterbacks and say, yeah, the Titans don't develop quarterbacks well here, successfully and historically. Where I'm looking at Daniel Jones and thinking, oh, New York did him wrong. There's nothing that they're going to be able to do now to fix the issues that he has. They're just going to have to try and work around him as best as humanly possible. I felt that way about Mariota, felt that way about Daniel Jones. That's why I look at Will Levis with the protection, the urgency for the protection. I say, no, you have to get this right because it is so easy to ruin one of these guys. And all of a sudden, I mean, Trevor Lawrence becomes a best case scenario because he's good enough to survive the Urban Meyer year, right? Anyway, so nobody's picking the Giants to go Super Bowl this year. That's
Don't
the thing?
think so.
Okay. No,
Brian Dable looks great.
he does, Ozempic. Wait, reckless speculation.
That is so reckless.
Quickly. Yeah, him and his wife both.
So reckless.
No, come on. Look at those pictures.
They can't just be on a diet and exercising together, doing it as a couple.
No,
Come on.
Not looking like that. They look like supermodels, the two of them.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
No, I'm not getting into. I can't be indicted for that. We recklessly speculated. We played the sound. We are now immune from any kind of legal scrutiny. But yeah, that's what immediately what I said when I saw that picture. 615-737-1045 is the number.
I say about you when I see pictures of you 2 years ago.
That's fair. What a national championship would mean for the University of Tennessee. We'll talk about it coming up next. QC Kinetics is here to help you move freely and not deal with that nagging joint pain that so many of us experience at various points in our life. QC Kinetics is the best spot for you to seek that help with regenerative medicine, advanced regenerative medicine, because QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in it. I'm talking cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. They've helped so many people here and tens of thousands more around the country. So if you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. Call QC Kinetics today. The future of medicine is here. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So, national championship tonight, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Who will win and leave Omaha with the Natty? It is a huge spot for both programs who have never in their history, respectively, had a College World Series. How long has Tennessee been playing baseball collegiately, Lucas?
Oh, man, that is a great question.
Something like 80 years, right? Sounds about right.
Got to be close to a century.
I would think so.
If not over.
So, Tennessee has many national championships in its school history across sports, whether it's women's basketball, men's outdoor track and field. Of course, the football program has 6 that they claim going from 1938 to 1998, but none since then, which, of course, is a huge sticking point for the entirety of the Tennessee fan base. Swimming and diving, you've got cross country, all these things, but never in baseball and never in basketball. So, of the 3 primary sports that we all talk about, never in men's basketball. Women's basketball, of course, 8 national championships that they claim from 1987 to 2008. So, in the major sports, women's basketball has dominated. The Lady Vols are a national brand. Pat Summitt is an icon, understandably so, not just for what she accomplished at Tennessee, but what she accomplished for the sport of women's basketball. Beyond that, though, you've put a ton of eggs in the basket of football as a Tennessee sports fan generally. Of course you're going to. We live in the Southeast. Football is America's most popular sport. The thing that we're all going to gravitate towards is 100. What's England? 110,000? Smaller?
101.
101,000? 101,000 screaming people on top of your necks for 4 hours, essentially, of college football is always going to be marquee, a number one. But baseball has, it seems, captured the fan base, the university fan base attention, as well as anything that's not been football? Or do you think that I'm not giving enough credit to what Rick Barnes has accomplished with the basketball program? Because when they're rolling, there's no question that Tennessee fans support whatever it is. But I've been watching, the interaction around basketball. And also, I think some of this is the calendar, just where college basketball season falls in the middle of football. So football is always going to take up the most oxygen. Baseball has a little more room to work with. There's not a lot else going on in the summer. So it's been kind of interesting for me to watch the level of interest, or at least the level of interest that I perceive, and any differences between how passionate they are about basketball and men's basketball, specifically with Rick Barnes, and baseball with Tony Vitello.
I mean, Tennessee fans are passionate about getting a championship, right? Like, Tennessee fans aren't down bad and miserable week in and week out when the baseball program was floundering. The way it is with football, obviously, or basketball too, to an extent. When the basketball team stinks, it's not fun, and you don't enjoy the basketball season. When the baseball team is not good, it's easy to tune out, right? Like, baseball is the major sport in college athletics that's easiest to tune out if you are not good, if that makes any sense. Being really bad at basketball makes you miserable. Being terrible at football makes you dreadfully miserable week to week throughout the entire fall. Baseball, not as much. But in this period of the Danny White-led era of Tennessee athletics, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Oh, it's in such a healthy place right now. Look across the board. Football, double-digit wins 2 seasons ago, trying to get back to that mark. So much excitement with the Heupel offense and how talented that roster is now and how deep it is now going into this season with the 12-team playoff. Basketball gets to the Elite Eight for the second time in program history, wins the SEC regular season. Baseball wins the SEC regular season. Softball wins the SEC regular season. And what has headlined that conversation the entire time has been, okay, but where's the championship? Where is the national championship? So that's why I think Tennessee fans are so all in on this right now, because this will be that first breakthrough in this era of Tennessee athletics, coming off the worst era, the least healthy era of Tennessee athletics.
I was laughing because, I'm just trying to observe things around me enough during the sports weekend to remember them, to bring them up on the radio show. Just watch. So for full disclosure, Lucas was kind enough to have us over to grill out brats and hot dogs and listen. I don't think I've ever done that in my life. grilled out and listened to a baseball game like that on the radio. And it was great. We had a great time.
Shout out John Wilkerson.
Other than watching Bert in the baby pool, which was both alarming, disturbing, and borderline pornographic at times.
Why does people having joy bother you so much?
No,
sometimes?
I felt like he violated that hose. I felt like the hose was being violated in a variety of different ways, and that the baby pool, the $60 baby pool that you purchased to let him roll around in like a hippopotamus was also violated by his presence in there. It looked like a swamp by the time he got out. Anyway, so we're not watching the baseball game. We're listening to the baseball game, and your buddy Jack was cracking me up because he just seemed to live and die on every pitch throughout the course of that game. He was impatient with us listening to the game on radio. He went in and watched it on TV, and then when he'd come out after, they leave runners on base or something like that, and Texas A&M comes back out. The Texas A&M offense comes back out. Your buddy Jack had come back out, just rocking back and forth in his chair. He's talking about, he's going on about the idea that he just needs something as a Tennessee fan, to the point where he's not really like manic with it, but it just made me sad. Like, I wanted it for him. I wanted him to have this thing because he's clearly miserable, or at least his sports fandom has made him miserable to the point where he's just like, please, God, just give me something as a Tennessee fan.
Absolutely. There is that feeling. And Jack is a diehard baseball guy, too. But I think there's a lot of Tennessee fans that were not following the baseball program week in and week out under Dave Serrano because they were awful. It was excruciating. There's nothing worse than bad baseball. There's also Tennessee fans I know that would trade the entire baseball program away for a 10-win football season.
Sure.
Right? So I think it's more about the championship and the way Tony Vitello has won over this fan base, and just the way he connects with players and fans top to bottom with the program. But like, if Tennessee were to win tonight, like Jackson, for you were very young when the Lady Vols last won the national title. I don't even know if you were born when the Vols won the football title.
Well, and I just, before you say that, I want to quickly correct myself. The last team national championship that the University of Tennessee has is women's indoor track and field in 2009. Lady Vols were 2008. So
okay,
just want to make sure I pay proper respect to the track team.
Were you alive for that football championship?
No.
Okay, and you were how old when the Lady Vols last won it?
8.
Okay, so where would a win tonight rank?
Oh my God, you weren't born in the 90s?
I was born December 30th of 99.
No
so
way.
The second to last day of the 90s.
Oh, you barely made the cut.
Oh.
Best day of the 90s.
So where would a win tonight rank for you in moments that you've experienced as a Tennessee fan?
It's got to be up there. I mean, it'd be the first time I didn't really, I was 8 years old.
You don't remember
so,
that,
I don't remember that.
Right.
This will be the first national championship I ever remember as a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, but what is it behind? Is it behind Alabama 2022? Is it behind getting to the Elite Eight? Is it behind winning the SEC tournament in basketball for the first time in decades? Like, where do you put it?
Probably be just behind Bama.
So number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
In your lifetime, the Tennessee-Alabama game where Alabama loses, you beat Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker is the Heisman Trophy favorite at that point, and it's an absolutely back-and-forth electric game the entire time, and you're smoking cigars at the end. That's your number 1.
Yeah, because the first Tennessee game I really remember is the Terrence Cody block in the Lane Kiffin season when I was 9. So, yes.
Mount Cody. Still haunting. Whatever happened to Terrence Cody? He was a Ravens defensive tackle. He wasn't really that good of a pro. I think he won a Super Bowl, though, with the Ravens.
Did he get a ring?
I do think so.
Yeah,
I think he was on that Ray Lewis last ride team.
That sounds right. That timeline stacks up with when he was drafted in 2010.
Of course he did. Of course he won a ring.
He was a Raven from 2010.
Jackson's still bitter over Terrence. I have never heard a fan base hate one specific player the way that Tennessee fans hate Terrence Cody.
Well, that was my most heartbreaking moment of my lifetime was that Alabama game, 100%. He was a Baltimore Raven from 2010 to 2014. He did win a Super Bowl.
Okay, anyway. So, scale of national championships is not even the conversation that it seems that we need to have. The conversation that we need to have is what the poll question currently reflects, and you can vote on the polls, which we will update at the end of the show. At Buck Rising is where you can vote on them. So, where would a Vol baseball national championship rank for you, not in terms of Tennessee national championships, but in Tennessee athletics moments? 615-737-1045 is how you can interact. You can also give us your comments in the Zone TV chat. So I obviously can't give an answer on this because it would be, to me, I mean, I wasn't at the Tennessee-Alabama game, watched the Tennessee-Alabama game. The moment was electric. I could feel it through all of you guys, but that's not my team, so it doesn't resonate that way. So I immediately would put a national championship, not in anything, but in one of the major sports over a regular season result, even as I understand just how sigh of relief that one regular season result was for all of the torment that Alabama. How many consecutive games?
15.
Yeah. The idea that this week has been, or that game had been so traumatic in Lucas Panzica's life that he regularly scheduled vacation on the weekend of the Alabama-Tennessee game so as to escape the suffering and the pain. And you don't do that anymore.
No, I don't. It changed me. Look, here's the thing, though. And Tennessee fans can say, if they want to, that they will put a national title over that win over Alabama. I won't believe them. Because I think if push came to shove, and you had people have to trade and say, no, you don't get that win against Alabama, but you get a college baseball title in 2 years, they're taking the win over Bama 10 times out of 10.
Oh, sure. But here's the thing that most interests me just about Tennessee athletics. Football is always going to matter the most. It doesn't matter how long, like they could go until, 2098 before they win a national championship between 1998 and 2008. I won't put that evil on you, Ricky Bobby, but you understand my point. Football will still be the thing that people want the most, that the most people attend, that makes the most money, all of it. But how long, seriously, can you go without winning a title before some of that fades? You've been through some pretty horrific times as a Vols fan base, but 98 is really not that long ago. It feels like forever. You have championship expectations as a program. I mean, not every season, understanding the coaches that have come through here and the NCAA
what are you talking
situations.
about? What do you mean by before some of what fades?
Like, how long can you go as a program who who traffics in history? Jackson talking about how young he is and having, you've just heard about Tennessee winning a national championship in football. You don't remember Pat Summitt winning a national championship in basketball other than you were alive and that lines up the timeline-wise. I'm not saying that football is ever going to take a backseat to anything. I'm just saying, like, how long, given that I went to a university that is supposed to be a blue blood in one sport, college basketball, right? Indiana is supposed to be one of the best college basketball programs in the country, and they haven't won a damn title since 1987. So I don't know how long, and if it's specific to parts of the country and SEC football or whatever, that we're talking about a completely different thing, how long can a program go between national titles before some of that starts to fade and you just age out?
Some of what starts to fade?
The lore, the mystique, the feels like 98. Like, how long until feels like 98 doesn't feel like anything anymore because you're having kids born in 2000s that don't remember any of this stuff?
Tennessee fans are going to be hooked, living and dying on every down of every football game until the end of time, regardless of if they win a championship from here on out.
Which is the question that I'm asking, because if you're like you don't think there's anything like any amount of time that can pass before that starts to feel a little less.
No. Oh my God, no. That's not fanhood. That's not fanhood. Tennessee didn't have a national title, Buck, since 1951.
Lucas, you're telling me that's not fanhood, and I went to Assembly Hall for the first time in 10 years, and I looked at it, and it made me sad. It made me sad to see under 5 national championship banners, a half-empty Assembly Hall with no students in there. It's a weeknight game, whatever, but no students in there. And my sister telling me, as a junior in college, she never been to a damn or she hardly goes to a basketball game. Hardly goes to the basketball. You know how pissed off that makes me? And I wasn't alive for the last Indiana basketball championship. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're dismissing that very casually. And I'm looking at an example of it in my life and being like, this crushes me that for a Wisconsin-Indiana game, Big Ten play, that nobody is in here and it's quiet.
I hate that you're putting me in a spot where I got to throw the SEC slogan at you.
You can. No, that's what I'm asking. I'm genuinely asking you the question. I'm only this pissed about it because I witnessed it with my team.
It just means more. It's such a cliche, right? And you can cringe when you hear it, but it is true, right? Like,
okay, but that was the way. So my version of it just means more is in 49 other states, it's just basketball. That's my version of that. Okay,
is that what they say?
In 49 other states, it's just basketball. In Indiana, it does just mean more than anything else, than IndyCar. Nobody gave a damn about the Colts until Peyton Manning got there. Like, none of that stuff matters in that state, and yet I see it half empty and Purdue running away with all the Big Ten titles, and just it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. So I'm not wishing that on Tennessee fans. I'm genuinely asking the question. Do you think that there is any amount of time that can pass where that would start to take an effect on kneeling? Because I think surviving Butch, surviving Lane, surviving Dooley, and all the other downtimes that you've already seen, you may well be correct about that. And it is ineptitude proof. But I just watched my program get dragged for the past 30 plus years because they can't do anything and they can't get themselves out of the rut.
Yeah, it just doesn't fade because it's not only it's also the fact that you only have so many games, right? And you're only going to have 7 or 8 opportunities to see your football team play and go to a game, unlike basketball, where it's obviously a very, very long season.
Sure.
It's probably easy to get fatigued and not show up on your, Saturday Big Ten game where you think you're going to lose.
No, but it's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be there in the same way that you're talking about.
But I think a win tonight for, let's say, Tennessee fans born in the 90s that were toddlers or infants in that 1998 national title run and don't really remember it, I think a win tonight has to be top three. Top three, whether you want to put Alabama above it and the Lady Vols run in 07-08 with Candace Parker and Pat Summitt. Maybe you want to put the Elite Eight run this year up there, or one of Tennessee's basketball SEC titles in recent years above it. Just depends on how you prioritize things, but it's less about the sport as it is about the principle of winning a championship. That's so important right now to Tennessee fans, and so important to have that tangible championship to put into the mix into this current conversation about Tennessee athletics being in a very healthy place. You need a championship out of that. Football is always number one. It's the engine. That's never, ever, ever, ever going to change. But I do think tonight would be a very pivotal moment in the lives of most Tennessee fans watching.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Speaking of championships, there is history on the line tonight in a Stanley Cup Game 7. We will talk about that coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Not only the national championship in baseball between the Tennessee Vols and Texas A&M on the line tonight, you have the Stanley Cup that could be decided in ridiculous fashion. When we talked about this at this time last week, when did the Panthers win Game 3? What was the date? Have they blown this 3-0 lead in less than a week?
Oh, it's been over a week. The Panthers Game 3 win was Thursday, June 13th in a 4-3 final.
We are 11 days later, and they are playing in Florida, mind you, with Game 7 on the line tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, who couldn't score for the first 3 games and have just shelled the Florida goalie in the last 3 to even this series with this Game 7 on the line. So it's on ABC tonight at 7 p.m. It will be an hour after the Tennessee baseball game starts. So it's a 3-screen night for you?
For me, it's a 3-screen night. But for most people, it's a 2-screen night. For most people in Middle Tennessee, probably a 1-screen night or just across Tennessee in general. But yes, big sports night. How many goals do you think the Oilers scored in the last 3 games of this series? The 3 games that they have won?
I'm going to say... I don't remember off the top of my head what Game 6 final score was, but I'm going to say 18.
18.
Oh, really?
18 is correct.
No, because I knew they had the 8-2 result.
8-1.
8-1
is
result.
what got this thing started. So
18 on the nose.
18
How about that?
Over 3 games after scoring 4 total goals in the first 3 games of the series. By the way, 18 goals over a 3-game span in Stanley Cup final history. It's only the second time that's ever happened. So the Oilers have woken up. They did it over the weekend with Connor McDavid not even having a shot on goal in Game 6 and still won 5-1 in dominant fashion at home. So do we look at this as, how do the Panthers grapple back control of this?
Okay, but think about this, all right? If you'd have told Florida Panthers fans, they have won a championship in their existence, but they are not like... They're more of a tortured fan base and more of a laughing stock for being in Sunrise, Florida, not actually in Miami and playing hockey. And here they are in the Stanley Cup.
They've not won a Stanley Cup.
They have. Haven't they won a Stanley Cup?
No. They've been to the final multiple times.
Maybe, okay, so maybe just within grasp. That's my mistake.
This is their 3rd final. They made it in the mid-90s, but this is their second consecutive final.
They lost in 96, the Stanley Cup final, made just 4 playoff appearances without winning a round through the next 23 years. So... that is my mistake. I thought they had won in 96. Either way, if you'd have told Panthers fans, you've got Game 7, Stanley Cup, at home, you're in Sunrise, you've got this against the Edmonton Oilers, you've taken them to Game 7, you don't think every Panthers fan would have picked this scenario? Sight unseen, not knowing that you would have had 3-0, and then all of a sudden you go 0-3 in the next 3, and now you're sitting there with a decisive Game 7 on the line. You don't think Panthers fans are taking this option if you present them a choose your own adventure?
Of course they are, but the context is so important in this series. I mean, the Oilers have just been dominant over the last 3 games. And I wonder where Preds fans are with this, because I think being in the Western Conference with Edmonton, there is kind of a growing hatred for Edmonton and how good they've become with Connor McDavid leading the way. But I don't know, if you're a Preds fan, do you want to see Matthias Ekholm get his hands on a Stanley Cup?
Oh, maybe.
I mean, he's been really significant for them all season long. Do you, maybe as a Tennessee fan in general, Preds, Vols, Titans, everything, do you just hate the state of Florida? And you like to see Florida fans in pain, regardless of the sport, regardless of the league. I'd like to see the Oilers pull this off and become the first Canadian team to win the Cup since 93.
Now, my allegiance here is for comedy. So Edmonton winning the Stanley Cup would be a collapse of epic proportions. Epic proportions. And we would all point then and laugh at Florida.
But what would be more comedic? Charging back from down 3-0 in the final to lose Game 7, or coming all the way back and then win Game 7 to complete the comeback?
No, coming all the way back. Florida.
That's funnier.
Oh, way funny. Florida up 3-0 and then just chokes like dogs, even if it is against McJesus. It's McDavid, because the idea, and I don't know how much you've paid attention to like the news cycle around this. But you've got people from Miami writing articles going viral in the entire country of Canada because they're calling Connor McDavid national treasure overrated because he hasn't won a Stanley Cup or something like that. Then all of a sudden, he's not so overrated anymore. And Sergei Bobrovsky, who's been excellent for you for the first 3 games, is just, struggling. And there's really not a player. There's not many players other than like Matthew Tkachuk who could say that they have been consistently good throughout this entire series for the Panthers. So yes, comedically, the crash from up 3-0 in a championship series is way funnier for everybody but Florida fans if Edmonton pulls this off tonight.
It's obviously never happened in the NBA, right? It's never happened in an NBA playoff series generally, right?
I don't think so.
A comeback. 3-1 just happened for the first time with KD's Thunder losing to the Warriors, right? Wasn't that the first ever 3-1 comeback in the conference finals? The Warriors coming back.
Broke that Thunder team.
Yeah, literally. So this has not happened in the Stanley Cup final since 1945. World War II, when the Maple Leafs came back from down 3-0 to beat the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup final. So this would be history. Mentioned first Canadian team to win it since 93 if the Oilers pull it off. Like, where would this stack up? We talk about where a Tennessee baseball championship would stack up in Vol sports moments. Where would a Oilers comeback championship stack up in biggest choke moments
all
in
time?
A final?
This is 28-3 bad.
In our lifetime.
Yeah, it's 28-3 bad. 28-3 is all forever and always the laughing stock of all laughing stocks, because wasn't that Brady's 6th? Wasn't that Brady's... No,
his 6th.
It was his 5th.
It was his last. Was that? No, that was before or after the Rams. That was before the Rams title, I think. Yeah, it was. That was before the Rams beat title. The Rams. So his 5th. Yes, Jackson is correct.
So with all of that, it would be one of the all-time sports chokes. It would be unthinkable. Now, it's not happening in a major market that way. Florida's a major market, or Miami is a major market if you're going to count them as Miami, but this is not a team that Miami completely throws themselves behind, except apparently Ariana Grande, lifelong Panthers fan showing up at games and things like that. Didn't have that one in my on my bingo card. I just think it is going to be an all-time choke. It would be the other thing that might mitigate this a little bit is that they're not doing it against would you consider it still because they're doing it against a Canadian team? Would American sports fans consider this an all-time American sports choke if they did it against a Canadian team? Because Canada should. It's the bigger deal for Canada if they keep losing Stanley Cups to American teams, especially Florida and Tampa Bay. They cannot beat the state of Florida as a country for their most important sport, no matter how hard they try.
You're talking about one of the most legendary franchises in the National Hockey League.
That's what I'm saying.
In Edmonton.
They're
just legends all over the place.
Florida again?
Yeah. 5 Stanley
Tampa
Cups.
just won 3. You mean Florida's the team we got to deal with now? Unbelievable.
That one would hurt. That one would hurt. Yeah, it's definitely got to be up there. 28-3 is a good place to put it. 28-3 and the comeback by the Patriots would be like the football version of being up 3-0. In a series. Truly. And losing 4 straight. Crazy.
So we'll see what happens, not just for the Vols tonight, but in the Stanley Cup. Is it final or finals? I always mix up that with basketball.
Singular.
Final is Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Finals is NBA. Anyway, BVS is battered Vols syndrome. We're going to get a vibe check heading into Game 3. We're going to you could see Lucas and Jackson on camera. Are you on camera?
I'm not.
Okay, we'll figure that out during the break. But we're going to take a general temperature check. How are you feeling heading into Game 3 after needing a big 4-1 comeback to keep your College World Series hopes alive? I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The College World Series Finals comes down to tonight, Game 3 between Tennessee and Texas A&M for a national championship. Vols fell in Game 1, 9-5 on Saturday, but came back with the 4-1 win Sunday afternoon. Drew Beam got the start, struck out 7, allowed 1 run and 3 hits over 4 innings. Aaron Combs got the win in relief, and the Vols stayed alive. Xander Sechrist expected to get the start tonight for Tennessee, with lefty Justin Lampkin likely starting for A&M. Vol Network coverage on The Zone begins at 5:45 before a 6 p.m. first pitch. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final is tonight. The Oilers at the Panthers. Edmonton was down 3-0 in the series before winning 3 straight to tie it up. With the win tonight, the Oilers would be the first NHL team since the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1945 to come back from down 3-0 to win a Stanley Cup Final. Puck drop tonight is at 7. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Air towards left, ranging back, looking up, and that ball is good! Timing is everything!
Ain't no smoky smoke on Rocket Top.
And the Volunteers go from must-win to winner take all!
Ain't no telephone bills.
All right. Who did it? Which one of you? Which one of you put that haunted Rocky Top in the middle of my radio show? Which one of you?
It was me, and I loved it.
It is fun. Who made that?
The great Robert Walsh.
Okay, excellent. Well, so yes, Tennessee in the national title game against Texas A&M tonight. The way that they got there was probably not the way that all of you envisioned. Vibes were pretty high on Friday. Vibes pretty damn low on Saturday after that game concluded. Because it never felt like they were in it. And it was the most, I mean, the amount of errors that they had. We kind of talked about this on Friday, right? With some sloppiness in the infield play and how much sharper they needed to be defensively to not just lean on the lineup time in and time out to bail them out and to get down in games at whatever point and then just shell their way out of it. And they did that a little bit in Game 2, but not quite the way that many of you would have imagined, where they're leaving runners stranded on base. And Texas A&M's pitching is excellent, and Drew Beam is not giving you quite as much as you want. It felt like not quite as much as you wanted in that situation, even though Drew Beam has had an incredible career at the University of Tennessee. This is a huge spot. So I came over to Lucas's yesterday for that cookout, expecting there to be, I don't know what I thought the vibes were going to be when we were going to listen to the baseball game on the radio and grill hot dogs and brats and stuff like that and watch Bert roll around in a baby pool. I don't know what the vibes were going to be, but I know that it felt like a carryover from Saturday night for basically the entire game until Dylan Dreiling just digs you out of it.
Yeah, because they hit that solo shot early, and a credit to Drew Beam. That's all he gave up yesterday. Yeah. But the Dreiling homer was such a washover of relief because you thought, okay, the bats are here. And they made a little run at it at the end of Game 1. Obviously, a 5-run third is what really did Tennessee in on Saturday. But the credit has got to go to Drew Beam and Aaron Combs yesterday with no run support whatsoever. The margin for error was razor thin. And even still, at the end of the game, A&M had an opportunity with the tying run at the plate, and Tennessee was able to get out of it. So the pitching came through in a big, big way Saturday. And if there was any silver lining to come out of game one, it was that, okay, A&M's used up really their one true ace. Their pitching staff's had a lot of injuries this season. Ryan Prager had a nice night. But Tennessee should have the pitching edge from here on out. And they did yesterday, and we'll see if they do today. If Xander Sechrist continues his postseason form, then you should feel good. I think that's where most of the confidence will come, because you're not going to question the bats, really, even though they didn't dominate the last two games. And listen to this. Nathaniel Rutherford tweeted this out, former Rocky Top insider, and still does some stuff with RTI. But he put together Xander Sechrist's last 5 starts on the mound for Tennessee. They were clinching the SEC regular season title, sending the Vols to the SEC tournament final, winning the regional, winning the super regional, and sending the Vols to the Men's College World Series.
Stop it.
To the final, I should say, with the start against UNC. So his last 5 starts have been clutch performances that have gotten Tennessee to the next round in some form or fashion, and it's fitting that the season ends up on his shoulders tonight on the bump.
Well, and you got clutch performances yesterday. What is Dylan Dreiling's moment, Cal Stark's moment, if not clutch, especially in the case of Cal Stark, where you're, 0 for 16 with like 9 strikeouts before hitting that 2-run homer to seal the victory, or seal the lead, the margin of victory for Tennessee, trying to become the first #1 national seed to win the championship since Miami in 1999. So we talk about streaks and aging out of things. It's been quite some time since a #1 overall seed in college baseball has been able to pull this off. With everything, because that's the thing. They were 2 for 20 with runners in scoring position over the first 2 games of the final before Dylan Dreiling hit that ball. That's not the way. Like, we talked about this on Friday. If we're talking about them getting swept in a national title game, how does it happen? Of course, it's the bats going cold the way that they did. But 2 for 20 with runners in scoring position is not what I think of when I think of this Tennessee offense and the efficiency in which it's been able to operate.
No more Chris Cortez. He was phenomenal yesterday for A&M, but you can take solace in that you're not going to see him again. Through 99 pitches yesterday, scoreless for 4.1 innings. And Mike Wilson talked about it at 10:20 that they've already seen the lefty, Evan Aschenbeck. He threw 46 pitches Saturday, so there could be a reality where Aschenbeck comes in, but Tennessee's got to get Justin Lampkin out of there as early as possible. Force A&M to the bullpen as quickly as humanly possible. And it'll be interesting to see how much Kirby Connell throws today, because for a guy like Kirby Connell, this is his last baseball game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not really a pro prospect. Don't expect him to go into anybody's farm system. Johnson City born, Tennessee guy, has been in this program for so long. I mean, how long have we talked about the mustache on Tennessee's pitching staff? And it is very possible.
He was doing mustaches before mustaches were cool.
It's very possible that it gets placed on his shoulders and he can throw. I mean, he can give every last ounce of energy in his last game ever, like it was for Drew Beam yesterday for Tennessee, and he played really, really well.
This is Tony Vitello speaking in reaction to the Game 2 4-1 win over A&M yesterday.
Muted in the chat, I think.
Picking up players picking up coaches with decisions and things like that. And obviously it's easy because the score is what it is, but I just felt like we were more true to who we were today in pregame and the dugout during the game. And again, it's easy to say that because we end up doing okay on the scoreboard, but I'd rather go into battle with that group the way they showed up today and hope they do the same tomorrow.
Now, that's Tony Vitello after the game yesterday. He would go on to say, quote, "There are no trophies or rings or belts awarded today. But what we do get is another chance to have one more game with this team, and it just happens that it will be for a national championship." So that is what they're going to do in front of just about 26,000 people today in Omaha, Nebraska. That's what they're going to try to accomplish. Neither program having a College World Series in its history. Tennessee making that stat 1 for 17 after how the day had gone. Just such a huge, huge moment for Dylan Dreiling, who's continued to come up big. And I know Mike Wilson I don't think he was making jokes, though, about professional hitter, Dylan Dreiling. Professional hitter, just the way that he approaches it, how consistently he's able to make plays in big spots, and just left it hanging after a 372-foot warning track home run. Just unbelievable what they were able to accomplish yesterday.
Thomas on the FNM Bank chat says, law of averages says those bats will heat up tonight. No way your 1 through 3 hitters stay as cold as they've been this weekend.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. You can also, as Lucas said, interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, the FNM Bank chat. So what are we going to be? It's going to be about 26 hours between these two games. I'm so curious to see the vibe from each dugout as this game wears on, because we've seen this in moments. And then again, the Christian Moore element of this, where he's such a life force for that team, not just on the field but off it. What the emotions are like in the respective dugouts playing out in this game, it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic either way. It's going to be an epic failure, or it's going to be an epic win. And I know Tennessee fans are going to be hanging on a thread every single pitch throughout the course of tonight's broadcast, which, by the way, you can hear starting at 5:45 p.m. Central Time here on 104.5 The Zone. The first pitch for Tennessee and Texas A&M in the National Championship is 6 p.m. You can hear that broadcast from the Vol Network right here on The Zone.
So what do you estimate the level of BVS is going into this game?
I don't think it's very high. Doesn't feel to me. I mean, just if I'm not actively ribbing people about BVS and just kind of like taking a look at you guys from time to time, taking a temperature check, you don't really seem to be sweating that bad. Jackson sweats sometimes anyway, but you don't really seem to be sweating that bad today, unless I'm mistaken. I can't really see you, but beyond my ring light.
I'm a little scared.
Okay.
It's in the back of my mind.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to having fun, but I don't know how much fun I'm going to get to have.
Can you be looking forward to having fun if you already have fear in the back of your mind?
I hope so.
Does fun come with fear? Because I would argue that the best moments in sports come when you are at your most terrified and your team pulls through in spectacular fashion, whatever that looks like. Whether it's yesterday and you're just sitting there waiting, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, runners stranded on base, 1-0, and then all of a sudden Dylan Dreiling just gives you that moment. That moment when your BVS is probably not at an all-time high, but pretty close.
It's creeping up. It's creeping.
Oh, yours is?
Oh, it was.
Currently?
It was before Dylan Dreiling hit that two-run shot.
Yesterday there was no question. Yeah, you were soaked in it.
Thomas says, no BVS. Win or lose, this program is hugely successful. They will continue to be a great team in season either way, setting history. Tennessee's won 59 games. Only one other team has done that in college baseball history. It was Vandy, 2019 national champs. So a win tonight would mark 60, which has not been done before. It is one of the best lineups in college baseball history, just by the metrics, the amount of players with 20-plus home runs. Pitching staff is one of the best in the country. So I think the confidence comes from just their resume and what they've done throughout the course of the season. And we'll see. BVS is, I used to think that in college athletics, a knockout round game in March Madness, like Sweet 16 or later, those last couple minutes of a close basketball game in March Madness was the most excruciating thing in college sports. I've changed my mind. I think a College World Series.
Breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
That'd be good.
Got him again.
That's such a pity. I could see the disappointment on his face because you can clearly tell when he's ramping up to a point. You're right. This is fun. I understand why you did it to me for so many years. Go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead.
We have a Jello shot update from Rocco to
I think yes. I very much agree. Yes, I very much agree. Yeah, no, this is the important breaking news that you need on Monday, June the 24th at 12:14 p.m. Central Time.
So Tennessee has taken a commanding lead over Texas A&M. Tennessee at 32,573 Jello shots. Texas A&M at 28,925. Last 2 years, the winner of the Jello shot leaderboard has won the national title.
Oh yeah, they're longer.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
They're just hanging around a bar longer. Hell, I would venture a guess to think that the losing team breaks the Jello shot record more often than the winning team does.
Not when LSU fans are in town. In this case, Tennessee fans.
All right, so perhaps we'll let Lucas make his very, very important point coming up next. We'll take your phone call 615-737-1045. That was fun. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you if erectile dysfunction has made its way into your life. If it has, there's no reason to freak out. You just need to make sure that you have the proper support system in place. And that, for a decade here in Middle Tennessee, has been the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They're here to help guys like you who are experiencing ED or issues losing weight and want to get back on track. Because the reality is that pills often quit working and guys stop being intimate as a result. And a lot of dudes hate going to the doctor, but the Tennessee Men's Clinic is a different kind of experience and created in 2014 to make sure that you have an individual treatment plan in place for you. For a decade, the urologists and providers at the Tennessee Men's Clinic have helped guys with ED and weight loss, and they now even offer aesthetic enhancements and cosmetic procedures. Their ED and weight loss treatments truly change lives, and with no surgery, they are seeing success rates as high as 90%. So call the Tennessee Men's Clinic because they offer same or next day appointments. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com and book an appointment today. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045. Tennessee fans not running away from anything. They're running right into the mouth of the Texas A&M Aggies for this national championship tonight. Apparently, Lucas and Jackson have no BVS. I have not bothered to get a BVS check on Reed yet, though he is in here wearing orange, so I assume he's confident. You're not wearing it. Neither of you are wearing orange today. I noticed that.
I told you my superstition yesterday.
I don't pay attention to what you say to me.
I have
that was hurtful.
I have responsibilities after this, unfortunately. No orange for me at the moment, but I will be wearing orange tonight. And the butterflies are starting to, it's starting for me.
Excellent.
Not going to lie to you.
Are you? So you're not kidding about being nervous right now at 12:23 with 5.5 hours to go before this game actually plays out?
The butterflies are fluttering a little bit. I can't imagine what it'll be by first pitch.
So you don't wear orange on days that your team plays?
Unless I am at the stadium. No, because they always lose.
Interesting.
Superstitious guy.
They always lose.
Always. If I watch a game at home or at a bar with friends or wherever, if I'm wearing Tennessee gear, they lose.
I am wearing the same color they wore yesterday, for what it's worth.
Yeah, okay. Trying to grift. So we'll see how things play out with the University of Tennessee this afternoon. For this, who is it most important, like legacy-wise, with the University of Tennessee? We talked about Christian Moore having one of the best, certainly one of the best single seasons in the history of the baseball program and one of the best single seasons that we've seen in college baseball. Jason Swain in Knoxville made the comparison to Jalen Hyatt's game against Alabama as being Christian Moore's moment against against Florida State. Having those parallels drawn. So Christian Moore and his place in Tennessee baseball history, Tony Vitello. Danny White as an athletic director trying to get his first national championship as an athletic director at the University of Tennessee. The fans, of course, we've talked about this. It's been all about you guys all day, and it should be. This is why we do this. You live and die for the opportunity as a sports fan for your team to win a title. This is, and whatever, your alma mater, your franchise, whatever your allegiance is, championships are what you strive for as a sports fan and what you dream of, what you hope for, the entire experience in the lead up. I don't know who this is most important for as like a defining moment for the University of Tennessee when you're telling me that a national championship wouldn't even be as important as that regular season game. You see what I'm saying?
It would be important. It's really just a matter of where fans kind of prioritize things. Like for a lot of Tennessee fans, a national championship tonight would still rank, like the bliss that Tennessee fans will feel at the end of a potential win tonight would still rank behind the Georgia Hail Mary game in 2016. Just from what you felt at that moment, that game ended up not mattering as much because obviously Tennessee lost a couple times and they blew a chance to win the East. But at that moment, you were 5-0 and you just beat an arch rival with one of the craziest moments in recent SEC football history. So that doesn't mean that it's not important tonight. And the Christian Moore thing, when he hit for the cycle, how legendary is that performance if the Vols lose that game, right? Against Florida State.
It's forgotten. Well, maybe not forgotten, but it's a side note.
He's still one of the two players in College World Series history to do that, but absolutely, it goes down drastically if they lose to FSU, and I think that carries over into today. So when you're talking about purely a legacy standpoint, Tony Vitello is going to have more opportunities, especially if he signs that extension that we heard about from Brent Hubbs and Mike Wilson. Danny White is going to have more opportunities to win a championship as the athletic director at Tennessee. This is it for Christian Moore. This is it for Blake Burke. This is it for this pitching staff, for a lot of these guys that have been in Omaha, that were the number one overall seed 2 years ago and didn't get to Omaha. So for me, it is more about the players when you're talking about legacy.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Talking Tennessee baseball ahead of tonight's national championship Game 3, decisive Game 3. Logan cuts grass. He's up next.
Hey, I just was wanting to let everybody know them Vols are going to come out on top tonight. Game 3, baby, they're going they are going to win. It's all nation.
Okay. We appreciate the call. Thank you for it.
Not yes, hell yes.
That was jarring. I was not prepared for Coach Mack in my ear. Both of us.
That thing does come in really loud.
I mean, football games are loud, Jackson. The decibel levels tend to be a little bit higher. But yeah, I think Vols fans are optimistic about where things are at. You know, whether you're waiting around cutting grass today or talking about this game all day at the office or something like that. I saw a lot of Vols baseball jerseys and gear wandering around town yesterday before the game, before we went over to Lucas's to grill out. So have we decided whether we're going to be in public for the watching? Not that you have to go to somewhere where I'm at to watch this game, but I kind of want to go to a bar and watch this game.
I always want to be around other Tennessee fans in these moments.
Okay, well, that's not me. I would be there to laugh at you if you lose, but not, I mean, you know, maybe I'll buy you a beer if they win. I don't know. You sure you want to watch the game with me?
Yeah, I don't know.
Tennessee did win when we watched it with him yesterday.
Well, that's a good point.
But you didn't watch it with me. You listened to it with me.
But you were there for the gathering to absorb the sporting event.
I watched The Last Out on television. So I'm going to carry that over.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think we should probably get out in it. I know there's some watch parties around the city. I know a lot of people have been talking about Nobles in East Nashville tonight. Got a lot of tweets to that effect. So if you're out and about, perhaps we'll see you for this game 3. Game 7 is what I'm thinking of in the Stanley Cup final. Do you want to talk a little Titans today?
Who are we not talking about with the Titans right now?
Well, that is an interesting question. The least discussed player of the offseason?
Yeah, we've talked so much about Treylon Burks and about Will Levis, of course. I mean, even Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard have dominated the conversation. Who are we not talking about?
Okay, well, maybe we can get to that later, but we'll keep talking Tennessee baseball in the meantime because there's nothing really going on with the Titans right now. Shelby is in sales up next.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Called to talk about just the legacy of Tennessee sports and the game tonight versus maybe some other moments in football history or Tennessee sports history. Grew up in Knoxville, huge Tennessee fan, all sports. And from my experience, what I have seen is you either got Tennessee football fans, you got Tennessee fans. And for anybody that's going to say that a single game, a single win, even Alabama in 2022 is bigger than a potential win of a national championship for this baseball team tonight. You're a Tennessee football fan. You're not just a Tennessee fan.
Oh, eat it, Lucas. Eat it. Shelby said eat it.
That game in 2022 against Alabama, I went absolute nuts. In fact, I got the cops called on me because of how crazy I went after that win. Absolutely loved it.
Okay, that's concerning.
To say that would be bigger than a national championship win tonight against Texas A&M. I'm sorry, you're not a Tennessee fan. You're just a Tennessee football fan.
Oh, the line
idiot, and I was wrong.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you for the call. A line in the sand has been drawn. You're not a Tennessee fan. How about that, fraud?
Look, man, if Tennessee wins tonight, I might shed a tear. Like, I'm going to be totally honest.
Oh, no, you're not going to. Would you really cry?
I haven't seen a Tennessee national championship since I was in 7th grade. And I'm going to be honest, Lucas Panzica in 7th grade wasn't watching every Tennessee Lady Vols game that was on in 2008, right? So this is as invested as I will ever have been in a championship team. But with that said, you can do both. And I'm sorry, but I'll be hard-pressed to believe you. And I'm not trying to throw water on the game tonight. I'll just be hard-pressed to believe you if you tell me that the feeling at the end of this game will be a greater feeling of bliss than the end of the Alabama game in 2022 with the Dixieland Delight and the cigars and the storming of the field. Like, I'm just going to have a hard time believing. It doesn't mean that this can't mean a lot. But like,
how does it feel to know that you're the one dismissing the University of Tennessee in a national championship game today, and I'm the one gassing it up?
I knew you were going to do this.
Knew I was going to do this? What do you mean? How did I know that you were going to take the pivot against your team? against your program.
Don't put that on me.
Rooting on the downfall of the baseball team just so that you can have Jalen Hyatt's moment alone against Alabama.
Don't you dare.
Unbelievable, this guy.
Don't you dare.
So, but I don't know if Shelby's alone in the idea of that, right? If you are, because every fan base has subsects of like even greater fanatics, right? We talk about how representative is Twitter of a fan base. There are people who are on Twitter. The vast majority of people are not on social media, right? They're not unhinged and, mother bleeping you to your face every time if you're an athlete on social media or whatever the case may be. Like, it's never that extreme. There are extremes, but it's never that extreme as it appears to be on the internet. I do buy off on the idea, though, that there are some Tennessee fans through and through who support their athletic departments or athletic programs up and down, and who would probably take issue with the idea of valuing a national championship in maybe not any sport, but in one of the major sports over a regular season football win, even understanding that there are very, very few regular season football wins that feel just like that. It had, and I know Bama fans will make fun of Tennessee fans about this, but just speaking objectively, like, it looked like you guys won a title. It looked like you guys won a national championship during that Alabama game. And I'm not saying that to like rib Tennessee fans, like, oh, this was your national championship. No, I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying, like, the atmosphere, to your point. The having that many Tennessee fans all in one place to witness that moment, beyond just people that watched on TV and celebrating on social media, there is something very, very specific about any football game, that football game, and a national championship in a sport like baseball.
It meant so much more than another notch in the win column in the regular season, right?
SEC company, man. It just means so much more. God.
Taylor on the FNM Bank chat says the Bama game wasn't just another Saturday game in the fall. And this is why I want to hear from people on it. It's why we put it to a poll. And if Tennessee baseball winning a national championship, if that does happen tonight, is top 3 of Tennessee athletics moments in your life, then that's a really special thing, right? That's a really special thing. So for me, I'm 28 years old. It probably would crack that top 3 next to the Tennessee-Alabama game. And I'd say maybe the Hail Mary game, maybe a certain basketball moment. That's really special, and it doesn't happen very often.
Christine is in sales up next.
Yes, our blood runs orange. We will be ecstatic. It would be in my top 3. It's a new era. Not only football, but we're baseball too. We're basketball. We're everything. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Oh, no, it sounds like your fan base is against you.
The context of the sport has to matter.
For you. It must be very uncomfortable for you to go up against your own.
I think you're trying to turn them against me, is what I think.
Yeah, is it working? It seems like it's working. I kind of want to keep going down this thread. I feel like I'm gaining ground here.
I don't think it's working, but I'm afraid that you are framing it in a way to make it seem like it's working, and perception is reality.
That's all it is.
That's what I'm struggling with.
I'm a master at that. That's one of the few things that I do well, is I can frame it any way you like. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure Slay will be completely unhinged on 3HL today. The Vol baseball, the Vol Network baseball broadcast will begin at 5:45 Central Time, and you can hear the first pitch right here on 104.5 The Zone at 6 p.m. after 3HL concludes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right.
Rocky Top Gal 14 on Twitter has tweeted us and said, "I've already cried once today thinking about this game tonight. It's so important to this fan base. Nothing will ever compare to that Bama game. In parentheses, I was there. It was cathartic. But tonight is vital to the entire athletic program." And I think that's a good way to put it.
I have another tweet from Joe Moore, VFL Joe. "I'm 46 years old. I remember the national championship in football very well. I cried. We win this natty tonight. I will cry again. Give me a national championship any day over just a regular season win against Alabama. Go Vols." You are on the losing side of this discussion, and it makes me so happy. I don't know that I've ever been this happy in 3 years plus of doing the radio show.
Why don't we let the polls decide?
Brent is in sales up next.
Hello. I've been a Vol fan my whole life. Didn't have a choice, but I wouldn't go any other way. I think that we're more relevant now in all sports. It is a different era. If this were in the time frame when we won our last national championship, I would have to agree with Lucas. But now that we're so much more relevant in other sports, and I think it is a new era. If we win tonight, that's going to be huge. And to win a baseball championship in college with all the competition you have to go through, I don't know of much higher ladders you have to climb to win that.
Thank you for the call, Brent. The hits just keep coming to Lucas Panzica's argument. I don't know. I don't know that there's ever been this lopsided of an instance in the history of the show.
Thomas on the F&M Bank chat says, I stand with Lucas here. 2022 Alabama, 2016 Georgia, and then potentially this game if they were to win.
You found one against my. There are dozens of us. Dozens of us.
Dozens. I would say a win tonight would be above any basketball moment, men's basketball, that I've experienced in my lifetime.
Well, but the caller's point is interesting. Tennessee football is always going to be the most famous thing, the most famous athletic program that Tennessee is associated with, right? But Tennessee is more famous across the board for being a well-rounded athletic program than they were. I mean, maybe I won't speak specifically.
When I was in college.
Sure, right? Like we're talking about a more well-rounded version of the athletic department, not just football carrying the day and then the rest of it, if you can get a Bruce Pearl here and there.
Yeah.
And who cares if the baseball program is slumping because we've got football, right? Now, it's across the board. It legitimately means something in every sport that you compete in. And so I don't dismiss that element of it to the caller, even as I still understand that football is going to carry the day.
And it's why there are a lot of people in the college football world that were so anti-expansion, right? Because any importance taken away from the regular season is a big hit to a lot of people, like Josh Pate, who's been banging that drum with us all the time and on his podcast.
Jeff is in real estate up next.
Real estate photographer.
Okay.
Hey, I'm a 5 decades Tennessee fan. This is huge tonight. I was in Arizona when they won the national championship. I was in New Orleans when they beat Miami. But this would be in the top 5 Tennessee events for me. I wanted to speak a bit about the whole Xander Sechrist story. I think this is just an amazing story. This guy, I don't believe, was anywhere close to being envisioned as their Sunday starter when the season started. He was more like a middle inning guy.
No, Jeff, we lost you there, but we appreciate the phone call. And yes, Xander Sechrist is an amazing story, especially ahead of this game tonight. He sounded like he dropped his phone or something like that.
Faded there. I'd encourage anyone to go read Gentry Estes' piece on Xander Sechrist on the Tennessean about that story.
Is this getting embarrassing for you?
He said it would be in the top 5 of his lifetime.
After
in the top 5
after L, they just get louder and louder.
This is like if the scoreboard, it's like you protesting that the scoreboard is different than it is if you're playing in a game. Like the game could be 30-20 and you're just trying to convince everybody that it's
no, but it is 30-20 and I'm just trying to convince people that it's like 65-6 or something like this. I've already won. I'm just running up the score at this point.
We'll let the polls decide.
615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last call for phone calls if you got them. 615-737-1045 is the number. Get in there if you want to. We will see what happens with the University of Tennessee tonight. We will, of course, have full reaction to it tomorrow starting at 6 a.m. with the morning show crew. Will is somewhere in the wilds of Omaha. That would be an interesting... Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what Will Bowling looks like from Omaha tomorrow. So, best of luck. Let's go to the phones. Ty is up next. Hey, Ty.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much.
Hey, I just want to say for the game tonight, for the baseball game, I think it's going to be one of the top 3 in my lifetime. I'm 46 years old. This will be the second time I've seen the Vols have a chance to win a championship. So it's up there. It's probably bigger than the game against Alabama was good and it was great, but I think this might be up there. Winning a championship is always greater than regular season.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ty.
What I really called too was, what do y'all think of this? The Laker hire. This is it one of the craziest hires I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy that has no coaching experience get hired to a storied team like this. That's like New England Patriots hiring a junior pro football coach. I mean, it's crazy.
Thanks for the call, Ty. We did talk about J.J. Redick getting hired. I think that was on Friday a little bit. And we did, we also had that same reaction as you did, like this seems a bit ridiculous. I think it's because it's the Lakers. It's different. Jason Kidd coming right out without a real coaching job before and getting a head coaching job in the NBA was not the Lakers. Steve Nash retiring and then immediately becoming a coach for the Brooklyn Nets is not the Lakers. That I think is why the level of scrutiny, the level of discourse is the way that it is about Redick, because it's not about J.J. Redick. It's about Los Angeles Lakers. So, yeah, the answer is yes, Ty. We have seen that happen before. But just truthfully, how far the Lakers have fallen as a brand, which is crazy to think that they've had LeBron for this long and that that they're trending in the wrong direction. That's kind of where they're at as a franchise right now. William does data entry. He's up next. What's up, William?
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to seeing the Vols tonight. Either win or lose, hey, it should be a good game. I think that, Lucas Fonseca is right. So, and also, just looking forward to a good game tonight. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, y'all.
Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day too, William.
Did that hurt for you?
No.
I heard the pain in your voice when you went, after he said that.
Like Slay?
Yeah.
No, not that. That's what happens. That's what happens if they lose.
Or lose or win, either one. It'll just be a different tenor.
It's all of the screaming, all of the time. No, it didn't hurt because I still won. So I think that you can have William as your ally. He's very nice.
We'll see what the polls have.
Very sensible, very sweet. He's also wrong. He's also dead wrong. Win, lose, as long as we get a good game tonight, it doesn't matter. No, if they lose, we're gonna come in here and talk about it. We're gonna have a big old BVS conversation tomorrow morning if they lose. All right.
If they lose, I will be sick tomorrow.
Me too, Lucas.
Don't think I've used any sick days yet.
Hey, listen, mother bleepers, I will show up and do this show by myself for 3 hours tomorrow. All right. I hope you don't show up to work tomorrow. Let me have the reins by myself for an entire day after the Vols, in this hypothetical, lose a national championship. But we'll see what happens. Polls, please.
The polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Tennessee fans, where would a baseball national title rank for you in Vols athletics moments? Puka says, not a Tennessee fan, should be noted, but Puka replies, well, in the past, some Vol fans have said no one cares about college baseball, that only the desperate celebrate college baseball championships. Congrats to the Vols, since I believe that they will win. says noted Vanderbilt fan Puka. Andrew says it would rank directly behind the victory over Alabama. I stand with Lucas here. The expectation was low going into that season. Beating Bama in that way after being owned by them will be second to none, aside, of course, from a natty in football. Buck down bad. Karen says top 3. 98 football.
You immediately tell me how little Twitter matters and then go to Twitter when you need a win.
Karen says it would
how
be...
the mighty have fallen. We can see it in real time. Look at him backpedaling.
It would be top 3 with 98 football and Lady Vols' undefeated season in 98. Brian, whose Twitter handle is @TooManyKids, says it would... well, his submission is it would be number 1 for him because it would be the first that he can share with his kids.
Oh, that's lovely.
So he
nice. Has too many of them, but he would still like to share a national championship with them.
David says a Tennessee baseball national title would be just behind the 2022 Alabama game, the 98 Natty, and the 1984 Tennessee-Alabama win in Neyland. Kyle says top 3 for me personally, Pat's last title, 98 national championship, and baseball national championship would be his order.
Yeah, that would be the order?
That would be his order. Pat's last title at number 1.
There's something to that, for sure. And I don't know how many... I think it takes a pretty unique, maybe not a unique perspective, but I think it takes good perspective to have that because Pat Summitt is, of course, no longer with us. The import that she has spanning, decades upon decades, generations to come on the sport that she won in. I appreciate that person for having the perspective, the nuance to, understand that you're probably going to beat Alabama again at some point after a drought. But you'll never see Pat Summitt win another national championship for the Vols.
Who has the pitching edge tonight? 70% say Tennessee, 30% say Texas A&M. Doing a BVS check, how are the Vols fans feeling today? 45% say they have no idea how they feel. 30.8% say supremely confident. 24% say I'm in danger.
Well, that's typically how these things go.
If the Oilers beat the Panthers tonight in Game 7, it would be the biggest comeback in sports since when? Matt says, why does nobody remember the 2016 World Series? Sorry, but this would be a bigger comeback.
Yeah, it's baseball.
That was not a 3-0 comeback. Now, I would take the 2004 Red Sox over Yankees down 3-0 in the championship series, but 3-0 comeback better than 3-1. Eldon says, since ever, 3-0 comeback is unheard of no matter the sport. In a final, it is largely unheard of, at least since 1945. John does point out that 04 Red Sox team don't think so on Twitter, says LeBron 2016 against the Warriors. The Sauce on Twitter says 28-3.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad one.
Yeah, those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Good luck to the Tennessee fans tonight. Good luck to Lucas and Jackson. We will see you guys tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to talk about it. Blaine Bishop coming up next.